Welcome to This Is How We Heal with naturopath, herbalist, and author Anthea Kairos. With over 3 decades of clinical experience guiding thousands on their healing journeys, Anthea invites you into honest, heartfelt conversations about what really gets in the way of health and healing and what gently brings us back to ourselves. If you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, overwhelmed by wellness noise, or just yearning to feel like yourself again, you're in the right place. This podcast is for anyone feeling burnt out, lost in a sea of symptoms, or simply longing for a deeper connection to their health, their body, and their truth.
Hello and welcome to This Is How We Heal. I'm Anthea Kairos, naturopath, herbalist, author and founder of Apotheca by Anthea. Wherever you are, walking, resting, driving, cooking, or simply pausing for a moment in your day, I'm very grateful that you're here. This podcast is a space where we slow things down, where we look at health, healing, and life with curiosity rather than certainty. Today, I want to talk about something I hear almost every day in clinic. Something so common, so familiar, and it often passes unquestioned. I just don't have time. I don't have enough time to cook, not enough time to rest, not enough time to exercise, to think, to visit loved ones, to recover, to heal. And yet, the more I sit with this phrase, the more I feel that what we are dealing with is not always a literal absence of time, but a much deeper relationship with time itself. A relationship shaped by culture, by fear, by pressure, by the internalized belief that if we stop even briefly, everything will fall apart. This episode is about that belief, the myth of no time, the illusion of time poverty, and how this illusion keeps so many people from the very thing they need most, space to heal. Time is running out. That is how it feels for many people. There is a quiet urgency between their symptoms, a feeling that life is moving too quickly, that they are behind, that they are late to something unnamed, and that there is always way too much to do and never enough room in which to do it. Even when the body slows, the mind keeps racing. Even when the calendar clears, the nervous system does not. I see this all the time. A patient who finally has a weekend free, yet instead of rest, there is agitation. A holiday comes, and instead of relief, there is some type of discomfort or a cold. A body collapses from exhaustion, yet the first thought is not what do I need, but how quickly can I get back to normal? This is not simply just busyness. This is something more existential. It is the feeling that time itself has turned against us, that it's always slipping away, that we never have enough, and that we are behind on our own lives. It is interesting, isn't it, how we speak about time? We spend it, we save it, we waste it, we invest it. We lose it, we run out of it. The language of economics has swallowed the language of life. Time has become a kind of currency, something to budget and stretch and manage rather than something to inhabit. I often think of the film In Time. I don't know if you have ever watched that film, where time becomes literal currency. The rich accumulate endless years while the poor live moment to moment, one clock tick from death. It was presented as a dystopian fiction, but it feels uncomfortably close to the inner world many people now inhabit. Because for many, time does not feel like a living field, it feels like debt. And when time feels like debt, rest begins to feel irresponsible. I don't have time is one of the most repeated phrases of our era, but when I listen carefully in clinic, I often find that this phrase is carrying far more than logistics. Things it may mean I don't know how to prioritize myself. I don't know how to stop. I feel guilty resting. I'm afraid of what I will feel if I slow down. My life is structured in a way that leaves no room for tenderness. I have learned to measure my worth by how much I can carry and do. And so the issue is not always that there are literally no hours available. It is that the available hours have already been claimed by a culture that worships productivity, praises overfunctioning, and quietly punishes stillness. And I've shared much about this already in our podcasts. So, busyness as identity. We live in a culture where being busy is not just a description, it is an identity. It signals relevance, importance, usefulness, and value. How often do people say to me with almost all the pride that I've been so busy? That is an answer. Or is it a complaint? But it is also a status, because busyness has become a socially acceptable way of saying I matter, I'm needed, I'm productive, I'm doing enough to justify my existence. But the body does not experience chronic busyness as success. The body experiences it as pressure. And pressure, when prolonged, becomes physiology: digestive issues, poor sleep, hormonal disruption or imbalance, anxiety, fatigue, and burnout. The body keeps score of the pace at which we are living. One of the things I want to say clearly here is that time poverty is not just philosophical, it is physiological. When we feel there is never enough time, the body registers it as scarcity. Scarcity is interpreted as threat. And when the body perceives threat, the nervous system mobilizes. Cortisol will rise, adrenaline will rise, breathing becomes shallow, muscles will tighten, digestion is deprioritized, and sleep becomes lighter and more fractured. And that is why so many people who are just busy are always either bloated, wired and tired, or constipated, inflamed, forgetful, hormonally dysregulated, and unable to switch off. The body cannot heal in a state of constant perceived urgency. Healing requires safety, and safety requires space. Not just physical space on the calendar, but internal space. The felt sense that we are not constantly being chased by life. The deeper truth beneath no time. I often hear people say, I don't have time to get better right now. So what can you give me in the meantime so I feel better? And I understand what they mean. But the truth is that healing does not usually arrive when life magically clears. Healing often begins when we stop waiting for ideal conditions and start telling the truth about what our current way of living is costing us. But sometimes that isn't possible because we have mouths to feed, we have bills to pay, and we just need capacity. But I think it's really important to understand what I don't have time really means. And so I'll remind you again. I don't have time means I have organized my life around everyone and everything except what is essential. I am trapped in habits that keep me so depleted to choose differently. I am afraid that if I slow down, I will disappoint people around me. And I have been taught to override my body for so long that I no longer recognize its own voice. That is why time poverty is so often an illusion mixed with reality. Yet many people are genuinely overburdened. They are. There are real structural pressures, financial pressures, caregiving responsibilities, impossible expectations. But alongside those realities sits another truth. Many people have also internalized a tempo that keeps them perpetually unavailable to themselves. Even when there is time, they cannot feel it. And even when there is space, they cannot settle into it. I think this conversation is especially important for women because so much of women's time has historically been treated as endlessly available. Available for caregiving, available for emotional labor, available for domestic work, available for smoothing things over, remembering everything and carrying everyone. This invisible labor rarely appears on a calendar in full, yet it consumes enormous psychic and bodily energy. What looks like competence from the outside is often compression on the inside. So many women are not only managing work and home and health, but also holding the emotional weather of entire families, businesses, communities, and friendships. And then when they are exhausted, they say, I just need to be more organized. And my answer is no, you are already so organized. Often what is needed is not better organization, but a deeper reckoning with what has been normalized, whose time is protected, whose time is interrupted, whose rest is respected, and whose labor disappears. These questions matter more because they shape whether healing is even permitted. I think of a woman I once worked with a while ago. She was highly capable, highly intelligent, deeply driven. She had built a very impressive career. She was admired. I admired her. She was also falling apart. She had all the symptoms, all the things that we often think about and talk about, whether it's hormones, gut issues, a disrupted circadian rhythm, sleep-wake cycle, brain fog, anxiety, and so on. She did all the things, had all the right tools, slotted in her calendar exercise, eating well, meditation, but there was no spaciousness in her life. Every moment was accounted for. And even when it wasn't, her mind remained contracted around what still had to be done. She kept saying to me, once things calm down, I'll focus properly on my health. But the things never calmed down because life itself was structured around urgency. And beneath that urgency, again, with other patients that we've seen, was grief or a longing, really, a longing, a profound sadness about how far she had drifted from the life she actually wanted. Did she really want more success? Did she really need more efficiency? What she was really wanting was love and a family and meals around a table and time to think and time to be and times to do the hobbies that she so wanted. Her body had become the place where all of that unlived life was speaking. And that, to me, is so often what symptoms are. Not just dysfunction, but communication. Healing cannot happen at the pace that made us sick. This is the heart of it. We cannot heal on the same timeline that made us unwell. We cannot rush restoration. We cannot schedule healing as though it was another task to complete. We cannot bully the body into safety. Healing unfolds at the pace of trust, at the pace of nourishment, at the pace of sleep, digestion, grief, and at the pace of the nervous system slowing, realizing it no longer has to race. And that pace is often slower than the modern world permits, which is precisely why so many people feel they have no time to heal. Because healing asks us to enter a different relationship with time entirely. The ancient Greeks had two words for time: Chronos, which is clock time, measured time, the time of schedules, appointments, deadlines, and calendars, and Kairos, which is live time, the right moment, the meaningful moment, sacred time, the moment that cannot be forced but can be entered. We are trained almost entirely in Chronos, but healing happens largely in Kairos. You can block out an hour for rest, but if your nervous system is still racing, you have not entered restful time. You can sit down to dinner, but if you are eating while answering emails and planning tomorrow and your mind's really busy and anxious, you have not entered nourishing time. Kairos is not more time, it is a different quality of time, a fuller one, a one that's more embodied, more inhabited, and one that is more honest. So, how do we begin to reclaim time, to have a different relationship or quality of time? Well, not by squeezing more in, and not by becoming more efficient, and not by color coding an already impossible life in your calendar. We begin by telling the truth. Not, I don't have time, but it is not my priority right now, or I'm afraid to slow down, or I've arranged my life in a way that leaves little room for me, or I need support. That kind of truth is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating, because once we tell the truth, we can begin to choose. Reclaiming time may look like saying no more often. It may look like doing fewer things, not because they are bad, but because they are crowding out what really matters, what we really want. It may look like sitting down, walking without your phone, going to bed earlier, letting something remain undone. leaving blank space in your day for daydreaming, for doodling, for walking, for anything other than doing, making tea without multitasking, visiting your parents, lying in the sun, doing one thing at a time. These are not small things, they are radical acts in a culture that equates constant motion with worth. The body keeps a different kind of time. It does not care about artificial urgency. It cares about light and darkness, hunger and satiety, activity and rest, connection and safety, rhythm and repetition. Natural time does not rush. In fact, it ripens. A wound heals in phases. A season turns in its own order. A seed does not force itself into fruit overnight. And the body understands this and knows this. And when we begin to live in even modest alignment with body time, something changes. Our breath deepens and our digestive system just starts working so much better. And we can fall asleep so much easier. And our mind will feel clear and moments stop rushing past so quickly. It's as if presence lengthens time. I have felt this myself. Perhaps you have too. A quiet morning with tea, an afternoon in the garden, a conversation where no one is rushing away, you're just sitting and talking, rain on the roof, watching someone you love speak and really being there for it. In those moments, time feels very generous again, not because there's more of it, but because we are finally inside of it. So perhaps the question is not only, do I have enough time? Perhaps the deeper question is, what kind of relationship am I in with time? Is it my enemy? Is it a tyrant? Is it a scoreboard? Is it a threat? Or could it be something else, a companion, a rhythm, a field in which life is actually lived? The myth of no time keeps us in a perpetual state of deferral. I'll rest later. I'll cook later. I'll call that person later. I'll tend to myself later. I'll heal later. But life is happening now. And the body, with all its symptoms and signals and quiet intelligence, is always inviting us back to the present moment. Not to a perfect moment and not to an empty calendar, but to this one, the one we are in right now. So thank you for spending some time with me today. And if this conversation resonated with you, please feel free to share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you would like deeper guidance on your own healing journey, you can find us through consultations, courses, and resources through the links in the show notes. And until next time, please take care of yourself. And remember that healing doesn't come from perfection. It begins the moment we return to ourselves.
If this episode spoke to you, your healing journey doesn't have to end here. Join Anthea in her dedicated online community, the Staying Healthy Together Club, a space for real conversations and holistic health education with trusted resources. We'd love to see you there.